that this meeting is being recorded, rebroadcast. I believe it is also live on RPS or YouTube. And meeting minutes will also be available in the town hall as well as online. So if you have the opportunity to review those minutes at some point in the future, there you could. I'm going to start off tonight's meeting by going through a quick roll call. And I'll just call out the folks that I see on the screen. If there's anybody else who's here, you can so speak up and we'll go from there. All right, so we've got from CPA, we've got Derek Yule. We've got myself, chairman of the Finance Committee, John Pumphrey. We've got Bill Principe from the Finance Committee, Julie Schaefer, Finance Committee, Doug Lapp, the town administrator, Craig Maroney, Finance Committee, Bobby McDonald, vice chair of the Finance Committee, Elizabeth Zaleski, our town accountant. We've got Pat Foley, trustee from the libraries. Thank you, Pat. We've got Jeff Leifer from the Finance Committee and also Capital Planning. Elizabeth McNeil, our new library director, so welcome, Liz. We've got Bill Stewart from the Finance Committee, Joe Gambon, Finance Committee, as well as Capital Planning, Delshon Flip from our Board of Health. Welcome, Delhi. And we've got Gino from our IT department. Thanks for joining, Gino, and we'll try and keep it riveting as usual. All right. Going down our roll call of our attendees for the Finance Committee, the only one I see on here who's not here is Lori. So if she joins in at some point, we'll pick her up to speed. Okay.
Is Megan here? Is Megan on yet?
I don't see Megan.
She was trying to log in under the access under the last, I thought the same minutes I logged in on to, and she was having trouble. So she might be out there on another connection. I don't know if the host can find her and pull her in.
Yeah, she just emailed me. I think I sent her the right link that I found.
We're also looking for Megan. And again, we'll bring her up to speed when she gets on. Okay. All right. With that, I'm sharing the agenda that was shared last week and posted online for the residents. Basically, we have CPA and historical is going to lead us off on budget department budget presentations, followed by library, Board of Health. The schools have asked to reschedule to next week, so that is one change. And then we'll go through some minutes. That's actually probably not in order. We usually do the minutes towards the end of the meeting. We do have a transfer request, I believe, from Biz, so we'll go over that. And then we'll also get, usually, especially in the budget season, we like to get updates from the accountant, from the town administrator. We're available, and I believe that Biz is going to be presenting some updates to the budget, or review some things that came up in the last week or so from the last meeting that I think will have a material impact on the schools. So she'll give us kind of a heads up on that. Okay. Anything, and we'll also leave some time at the end to talk about anything that the department Finance Committee members have gone over that they want to bring to the table for this week. All right. With that, let's kick it off. We've got the CPA. We've got Derek Yule from the CPA. So Derek, just first, I don't think that there's a CPA budget. Is that correct, Biz?
Yeah.
There's no operational budget for the CPA.
There is a budget for the CPA. They have to budget their 10% by law. So Derek will speak to that and his articles.
Okay, I'm looking to see if there's a CPA budget and anything that's sent over to me.
Oh no, that only comes across through regular articles, of which I believe Derek, I'm sorry, did send that to you previously.
Okay, all right. So it is just the articles I need to bring up on the screen. So
yes, sir.
You got it. And I'm going to share.
I believe there's only 2 articles, John.
Yep. Yeah, I got them both. I got them kind of primed. So Derek, before we jump into the article, could you give us just kind of a high-level overview of what the CPA has been talking about, and just kind of a little bit maybe of your process, because there's some people on here that may be not familiar with it.
All right. As some of you guys know, CPA, the Community Preservation Act, was something passed into law back in the mid-2000s. state of Massachusetts, to basically create a way of budgeting things that are generally underfunded, or municipalities just don't have the capital to fund. They set up 3 different programs, one for historic preservation, one for open space and recreation, and another one for community housing initiatives. The money that's raised is raised through a tax surcharge locally within the town. It's part of the property tax. And then a portion of it also is kicked in from the Registry of Deeds. Every time there's a transaction that involves a fee to the Registrar of Deeds, that money gets set aside as well. And the state has a trust fund set up that they basically give a kickback, a percentage of each year, based on what we do for locally raised through the property tax surcharge. It varies greatly. Their kickback varies pretty much every year. This year was a pretty good year. I'm understanding that we got around 28% kickback of our locally raised. Last year it was around, I think, someplace just south of 15%. So it was a pretty good increase. They've been able to pass some legislation through the state to subsequently fund that trust fund and kick money into it every year. For quite a while, it kind of stagnated and they weren't really putting anything into it. So it started dwindling the fund, and everybody's percentages of kickback came down. But this year it actually went up considerably.
Could I
almost
just
double.
make a clarification, Derek, if you don't mind? It's not a kickback.
No, not the
That's an
kickback.
illegal thing. This
It
is a
is.
state contribution. I'd feel so
It's a
much better.
contribution.
Thank you.
I understand completely. Basically, their contribution, it gets redistributed every November back out to the municipalities that are part of this program. We passed it during the 2016 presidential elections after running a campaign to get it into the town. And since then, it's been, we went through some growing pains, didn't really get much in the way of the first year or so. And then last year was a banner year, coming through 2019, we had about 14 projects, I believe, that we brought up and were able to fund. Touching on that, obviously some of those projects have been put on hold with the current situation going on this past year with the COVID situation. But this year, there's just two articles, one project and one budgetary. So there's not a lot you can see. Actually, John has shared the screen of the first article. That's our budgetary allotments. We basically take the sum of what we get every year via local and state. And of that, we're allowed by law 5% for administrative costs. Those can be having land surveyed, having appraisals done, any costs that we could see coming up to investigate or estimate projects that have been brought to us. It also handles if we wanted to try to hire a part-time person to, be a secretary or handle some of the administrative jobs that right now members do and whatnot. It's basically set. It's 5% every year. This year, 27.7 is the number you can see on the article. The other 3 are necessities by law. We have to guarantee 10% to each of the 3 branches of CPA, the historic preservation, open spaces and recreations, and then community housing. So the 10% cuts of those would be $55,400 for each one of those. And then the balance remaining after those withdrawals would be put into the budgeted reserve. to be used, for any nondescript projects that come through that aren't being paid directly from one of these three branches. This year's grand total was $554,000 brought in, via local and state contributions. So not the most exciting thing in the world, but it's there.
Interesting.
Yep. And the other article that we do have, if you can share that one.
Hey, Derek, can I interrupt? Have you, Derek, have you talked to Rich Harris on the capital planning about, meeting with us?
We're on his meeting tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yep.
So Derek, before we look at the new article for the new, which is actually a pretty exciting one, but before we get into that one, you mentioned that you had 14 projects going and that some, between COVID and everything else, there was some delays. What are some things that maybe like the residents can look forward to seeing from CPA that are going to be coming up in the next, 3 to 6 months, like over the summer? Like, are all 14 projects going to be completed, or what are some of the big ones that you could say, hey, they're going to notice X?
Well, a couple of them right out of the gates. One of the biggest ones, actually, was the purchase, in my opinion, biggest was the purchase of the land that increased the footprint of the Hartsuff Park property considerably. That was done through CPA funds, and that's already been taken care of. As far as things you'll notice around town, I know that right now they're still trying to work out the bugs of it, but another one that really kind of stuck with me was the passive grade crossings at each of the intersections of the rail trail. Basically like crosswalk signals that are set to go in at each one of the crossings on Liberty Street, Vernon Street, and so on. That's going to add greatly to the safety factor. And obviously during the pandemic, we've seen that trail gets and has gotten a lot more populated. A lot of people are out there walking, they're doing their thing. It's an easy way to distance from people, but still be active and still be out there, trying to stay mobile. And that's another one that I think people will really appreciate.
Oh, it's great. I was out there walking it 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's a fantastic thing right through town. I've never seen so many people gravitate to one thing, with the exception of maybe some of the golf courses around. But it's really been it's been used well. Yeah, I'm glad
Abington extended it out to Monroe Street, so you have better access.
Yeah,
Hanover do something.
Hanover's in a real tough spot with that, though. They made some real bad judgment calls on the property that abuts a lot of that trail, and now it basically, almost via an act of eminent domain, belongs to a lot of the property owners that abutted the original West Hanover branch rail line. So if it did extend, I couldn't see it going beyond West Hanover Square, the first set of lights there. You can get as far as maybe the Drinkwater River down there as you get past the Village Green.
If you walk the actual rails track,
if you watch the rails, but once you turn and it makes that cut where it goes out towards Myrtle Street and down through Circuit Street and out to Ludham Ford, it's basically backyards, sheds, and garages have been built on the former rail bed. So
I was talking to somebody, and they told me that even though those residents in Hanover encroached on that property and feel that now they have eminent domain on it, but I was told that that's not legal. It's still town property, even though they've encroached upon it. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's owned by the DCR technically. It's owned by the DCR. But I do know of 2 commercial buildings that are actually on the rail bed, and I don't see them moving a commercial building.
Oh, the building are sitting on it? Oh, Jesus. Okay. I didn't know that. Yeah.
There's a couple of them that go right through a couple of the industrial areas.
So Derek, wasn't some of the CPA funds used over the McKinley too?
We actually, we funded the 3rd floor sprinklers.
Okay.
As part of a historic preservation, to being one of those things that, if you don't have the actual sprinklers, you can't really preserve a building.
Okay.
And just jump in on that. That work is complete.
Yep.
That's great.
That's great.
Yeah, so
Great.
although a lot of residents may not see that, those that, will use that area, will notice, obviously they'll notice that it's open, number one, but number two, that it's a lot safer for everyone. And to your point, the historical part of that building can now hopefully over time can move forward. But in any case, good stuff there. Appreciate you sharing that. I'm going to share your second article for Spring Lake. And
I still see Megan wasn't able to get in. She's been trying.
I sent her the link.
Yeah. Oh, well.
she can always dial in too, but all right. So can you see you guys see the article for the Spring Lake?
Yes.
Okay. You want to go over that, Derek?
Yeah. Something that's been talked about for quite a long time now, that was brought up to us, is the property that abuts Studley Pond, Reed's Pond area, currently held in trust by Spring Lake Cemetery. So they're still going through the ins and outs, and actually Doug could probably shed a little more light on it than I can. But it's basically for the purchase of a parcel. I believe it was in the area of 2 acres, down through the side. Technically, the town doesn't own what we use down there and what we maintain. It was held in an agreement from I don't know, 100 years ago or whatnot. The trust for the cemetery actually owns it. They are the landowner. There is only one remaining person on that trust. So they're trying to deal with it prior to it becoming an issue, by possibly getting it to us for purchase. So this would be the funds to purchase and take control of that land.
So Derek, the plan would be is if the town moved forward and they did purchase this, then the CPA funds could be dedicated to making, would CPA be involved with the actual refurbishing of that area?
We can be, because it was a direct CPA purchase. So we can go in and actually, as with any land purchase with CPA funds, there's a mandatory conservation restriction of sorts that has to be put on. So it would be limited to what could be done there. We couldn't put a school on the land or anything like that, used for other municipal services. But it protects the land. And then, yes, if we want to, a historically accurate rebuild of the original wading pool and fountain, a splash pad type of thing, or a nice boat launch for kayaks and canoes. I mean, the list is pretty much endless of what we could do down there. Some of the other towns around here have used CPA funds to do some really good projects, especially along different sections of the rivers and tributaries around town. It's pretty much, it would be a fantastic property in my opinion.
That's exciting.
It really is the center of town. It's one of the first things you see as you're coming out of Abington into Rockland is this pond. And if you've ever seen it, I'm sure you all have. You see that pond at sunset. The sun's out over Ice House Lane someplace, and the whole thing lights up orange, and it's very picturesque. It would be nice for us to be able to throw some money into that and really dress it up, make it a little bit of a jewel of that southern part of Rockland.
Do we know, Derek, or Doug, if the deed to Spring Lake is going to include the frontage on the water, or into the water? You know what I mean? In other words, a lot of times you can get frontage, but it depends on how the deed is written. It determines whether or not you actually own the water, and you can actually, to your point, spend money to do things on the water. Things like that.
Yeah, I'll have to, I assume yes, but I can't commit 100%. And the only other thing I'd want to add to, I agree with everything Derek said. The only thing I want to add is we're still having our attorneys do title search on the property. So it's complicated, as Derek said. There's only one person that appears to be involved with the cemetery, but there's no real paperwork that they can document. So, the title search is taking longer than we want. So we want to have this article on the warrant. We want to pass it to give the town the authorization to buy it, assuming the title search ends up ultimately proving that it's okay to purchase. If it falls through, if there's no clear title and it's going to be not appropriate, then we just won't act on it and we can rescind that vote later. But hopefully we'll be able to make it happen, because I agree with Derek. This could be a real crowning achievement for recreation and open space in the community. And if you'd like later, I could share with you some maps. We did a survey and a wetlands delineation and all that using CPA admin funds, which are the exact examples of the types of uses of those admin funds that Derek mentioned.
Now, let me get this straight. Are we just buying the land where the park is, Derek? Or does that include the cemetery and everything?
The cemetery is a separate parcel. The way, actually, Doug, it probably would be clear if you can share that map. The cemetery is going to be separate, and the lot lines actually go beyond the cemetery. So it's a lot more land than just a lot.
Right.
It's a pretty nice little parcel.
Yeah. But the fountain and where the wading pool was, that's already town property. That's not part of what we're acquiring,
No,
is it?
that's the point. None of this is town property.
None of it is. Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
That's why we're looking to purchase
I mean,
it.
the whole road driving into there where people park, the dirt road, that's,
None of it's town property.
that's all part of this purchase. Okay.
Yeah, let me see if I can share my screen real quick, and I'll show you guys what I'm looking at here. This is a little bit rough, but hopefully you can see it. Where I'm moving my cursor here, that's the CBS. Okay, this is the pond here. So, and this is the cemetery here where the actual grave sites are. So what we're looking, this is the frontage, right? So this is where people drive in now and park. This is its own discrete parcel identified here in yellow. So we're looking to acquire this. This is all owned by the cemetery. This area here, identified in an upside down B, is not a discrete parcel. So this is going to have to be subdivided from the rest of this here. It's sort of delineated by this, I think it's a brick wall or some stones or markers.
Right.
So I want to be clear, we do not want to buy the cemetery. I don't want to be responsible for maintaining the cemetery. I've done it in the past and it's difficult. So we're looking to acquire this parcel and then this area that would be subdivided from this. This is all the frontage along the pond.
Yeah.
And like I said, I have other, surveyed plans, but I thought this is the simplest way to show it. But it's a big misconception. Everybody thinks the town currently owns it, but we don't. And that's why we're looking to do the CPA article so we can acquire it.
Yeah. If we do acquire it, there's I forget the name of the park, but it's in Norwell. It's just behind, it's heading towards Hornstra Farms. There's a park over there. There's a park over there on the left, and they've got it's a nice little area. And what they did was they put a little ramp out there for people to launch kayaks. So stuff like that would be great to see something like that, come to Rockland and get people out on the water. It'd be fun, but.
I think that one, John, is that King's Landing that you're talking about?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. It's in Norwell.
It's part of the North-South River Watershed Association.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic little property. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, they did a nice job over there, and I think that something along those lines would be great for the town. But,
I remember when that fountain worked down there at Reed's Pond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, Derek, is there anything else you had to share with the group?
That's it for articles. Like I said, we do have, there's several projects that are underway, some that are nearing the kickoff of them. and a couple of them that have just kind of been been backburnered for the time being. But we encourage, as always, we encourage people to get involved with it, with CPA. Bring the ideas, bring the excitement. We all would all like to see a couple of nice big things happen. But it all, it starts with the citizens. So.
All right. Any
always
final
hope-
questions for Derek on anything?
Yeah, I do. Just a little side note. I've been approached about the flashing crosswalks on the rail trail, and people keep asking me if they're going to put in the ones where you actually push the button and it lights up like Las Vegas, like the one on Division Street. Because those are they're solar powered, and I think they're the same amount of money as like the one by the senior center. But I didn't know what you guys what kind of crosswalks you plan to put there.
From everything that I understand, and I know it had actually between the original application and then the final application, they've kind of changed from a passive one that would basically be, non-intrusive. So they are all solar powered, self-reliant or whatnot, to the style that really it catches everybody's attention.
Right. Good. Oh, fantastic.
I've seen it firsthand. I live on the other end of Liberty Street, and my office is on Circuit Street. So I come down past Little Peach or Richdale every day.
Yeah.
And it never fails that somebody rips by that crosswalk.
That's right.
So it was definitely, that was a quick one for us. That was, I don't think that took longer than 10 minutes for anybody to discuss.
Okay. So now I know what to tell people when they approach me about it. Good.
Yep,
Thanks.
actually, not a problem.
Okay.
All right. Good job. Thanks very much, Derek. I appreciate it. Next up is the library.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank
We
you.
have
Thank you, Derek.
Neil, our new director. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And
Megan finally got in.
yeah, I see Megan and Lori joined as well. So yeah, you have that updated, Julie?
Yeah, I got it.
All right. If you guys can you guys see my screen for?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So Liz, typically we just ask that you go through your budget items. If there's not a lot of movement, if there is movement, certainly just let us know if it's contractual or not, or if not, what's the driving force behind it. And then if there's any articles you have, and then we'll just have a little Q&A and that's it.
Your mute might be on, Elizabeth.
Your mute's off.
There you go. We can hear you.
No, we can't hear you. That was Biz talking.
Me.
We still can't hear you, Elizabeth. I think you were, I don't know if you weren't you seated near Pat? Do you want to try from her computer?
I'm sure she's still muted.
Now you're muted.
She's muted.
Liz, try your volume button on the bottom right. See if that will help.
My volume's the F3.
Mine's F11.
Maybe you and Pat can sit together if you're in the same room or same building.
Good switch.
Yeah, Pat, why don't you unmute yours and we'll see if it actually works.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
That's it. Yep.
Sorry about that.
All right. Hang on a second now.
There's an echo, right?
Yeah.
Shut off the or mute the other computer.
Ooh, sorry.
Everybody,
Sorry.
everybody, everybody could please mute.
Okay. Is that, can you,
Yes.
are we good? Okay. Okay. Very sorry. Only differences between what we submitted for next year and this year is salaries. And we have union staff and contract staff.
Liz, is there anything you want to say about your budget to the finance committee?
We kept our request very similar to last year. We have some building stuff going on, but you probably know that we always do.
Yeah, usually, Liz, there is I believe there's a percentage or some sort of a formula that they use regarding books and related materials.
Yep.
That there's a requirement with the colony or whatever it is to maintain a certain ratio, whatever it is.
Yep.
I don't have it all in my notes in front of me, but are we within, guidelines of where we need to be?
Yes, it's 15% of our total appropriation needs to be spent on books and related, and we are meeting that now.
Okay. With the turnover of with you coming in as the director, and with everything going on with the staff with the library, what's it like over there? I mean, what are your hours? Are you open and not open? How are you kind of servicing the public?
Right now we're doing curbside service. We don't have the public in the building, but we're working towards that with case numbers in the area improving. It seems like it's getting safer to have people back in the building soon. So we're working towards doing that on we hope to start in the next month or so. But it has been easier to staff all of our regular hours for curbside service because we can do it with fewer people. We will have to spread our staff hours out more when we have the public in the building again.
So your budget for last year was 382,809. Based on what you're telling me, it sounds like if your staff wasn't in the building, were they furloughed? Were they like hourly staff that we just didn't use up the money? In other words, are you going to end the year with a surplus from FY21?
We will have some money from staff left over because we have 2 unfilled positions right now. We were furloughed for part of last year, but the staff has been back in the building since July. The staff is in the building, just no patrons. We're serving patrons outside without them coming into the building, but we are still here working. We'll have some money left over this year from the 2 unfilled positions. One of them is my old job.
So why do we still have a $10,000 increase?
It's the contractual increases and union increases.
There'd be
Alright.
step increases
Alright.
and various increases there. And then as you see on this, I'm sorry, Liz, as you see on this, there's a 1% increase that is been put in for the budget purposes.
Yeah, I understand the 1%. It's just the 10% that
Yeah.
if you had furloughs and you went up 10,000, but
It's step increases. You still have to account for them
okay,
because the position will eventually be filled.
okay.
Liz, were you like the assistant director, or what was your title as part of the staff?
My title was reference librarian. We don't have an assistant director position here, but I was effectively doing similar things to what assistant directors do in libraries that have that position.
So when you hire someone to backfill your role, are they going to come in a couple of steps lower than you?
Yes.
Okay, so should, with that, I'm just trying to make sure we bake that into that line item in terms of, again, to Joe's point, we're looking for an increase from FY21 at 382,809 up to 396,115. You know, certainly the step increases that were in there for you, but you weren't there. So that the person who's going to come in is going to be a few steps behind. Is the expectation you're going to have, is there more surplus in this budget basically going into FY22? Is this number like, do you feel like this number is going to come in much lower?
John, if I could, and Liz, tell me to stop talking if you want me to. We have to maintain the budgets. Liz has to come up to a full staff. I know at one point she had requested, and Laurie can to attest to this, that they wanted to increase their staff by one full-time person. So if she has to increase her staff on the go forward, that will assist her to do this. But to cut someone's budget or reduce it wouldn't be fiscally prudent, because eventually that's going to come up and they'll have to deal with that situation.
Well, the staff increase, would that be required as part of Old Colony Library, or is that just a staff increase that's being suggested to kind of serve the public, just kind of meet the needs of the public?
It would be meeting the needs of the public, and I'm not sure if Mrs. Foley might want to speak on this aspect as well as a trustee, or Liz would like to continue on with this.
This is just to maintain the same number of staff that we have. It's not to add any additional people or anything like that. And also the requirements don't come from the Old Colony Library Network, they come from the state.
Okay. All right. So I just want to understand how we're coming to a number that's like that. So maybe we can get a little bit more of a breakdown of that, so we get a feel for it. But if you have the same number, if you have, let's say hypothetically, you have 10 staff, and then after you fully hire everyone, you're going to have 10 staff, but the people you're bringing in are a much lower step, or they're coming in at a lower salary. It should all add up. It feels like it should add up to a lesser budget. But, and then I wouldn't want to use extra money to hire additional staff. I feel like that's something that probably it should be presented that way. In other words, we have 9 and we're going to 10, not aside from backfilling positions. That's a different conversation.
This would be backfill, John. If you look at the 21 budget, it was 463 and the request is 469 between the total staff increase. And that's $6,000 based on step. Now, as we talked about earlier, you also have a potential increase of a 1%. That brings you to roughly the 10,000. And, that's how you get there. The overall increase is not that high, and the director salary is lower than it had been in the previous years.
Right.
Yeah, and we currently have 10 staff, but we have 12 positions where like I'm doing my old job and the director job. Right.
Yeah, no, and we all can't wait to get back to normal. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's what you folks are trying to deal with. It's pretty tough. But I'm honestly just interested in the math. You know what I mean? I just want to make sure we're on point with that. It sounds like we are, but again, that's the only question. And it looks like all of your non-salary budget items are pretty rock solid year over year. You feel like you're obviously going to have some savings in there because you're probably not going through nearly as many supplies with the volume of customers. But hopefully we'll be open again soon and you guys will be super busy. So
yes, the only thing about supplies is that we have had to buy some things to respond to the pandemic, and not everything we needed was reimbursable under the CARES Act. So our supplies spending is not as low as we wish it was.
Okay.
Not as much lower.
So the supplies are, they're different, but they're still adding up to close to the same number.
Yeah, there are still things that we have to buy,
Okay.
and that's the line that
Yeah, that's fair.
they're in.
All right. All right, any questions for Liz on the operational budget?
Yeah, I do. Can you, I don't see a line item for training for your staff. Can you speak a little to that?
Yes, we have an internal line. It's part of our operating budget, but we've never had very much in it. I would like to increase it in the future, but I understand that this might not be the ideal time.
So under your operating expenses is where all your training falls. And is that also, are you using that budget for maintenance, or is all your maintenance going through I know the town has been helping out with some of the immediate projects and we've got articles, but there are other maintenance things. Is that all baked into your operating expense? Your heat, things like that?
Yeah, sorry, most of our operating budget usually goes to building expenses.
All right. All right. Any other questions on the operational budget? All right. Liz, do you have any articles that you're thinking of presenting?
No, we don't.
Okay. And then as far as the building goes, what are the, whether it's building or operational stuff, what are 2 or 3 things that you feel like are the burning issues that you'd like to get kind of fixed or repaired here in the next year or so?
There's a room in our building that had a flood in it in 2017 and still has some damage that has not been repaired. So that's something that we're always trying to get to. And some of our trustees, especially right now, feel that it should be done while the building is closed to the public, which I agree would be ideal. But we need to figure out the funding. Another thing is our bathroom fixtures are just very old.
Okay. Is the repair in that
Sorry,
room,
could you?
is that the one you're working with the town on, with Doug on? Okay. All right, Doug just nodded yes. All right, so Doug's got some money available to help you out with that. Hopefully budget wise that'll cover it, but certainly if there's additional funding needed, yeah, we definitely don't want to see people working in disrepair. So all right, so you were mentioning the bathroom fixtures.
Yeah, all the sinks and counters are just very old. We also have a toilet in one of our public bathrooms that was installed at the wrong height and it's not ADA compliant right now. So to me, it's a priority to fix that.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like manageable stuff, but not, you don't need a brand new roof on the building, or it looks like you just had work done in your parking lot.
No.
Okay. All right, that's
Yes.
good news.
And we have our window project is funded by CPA, and we're very
Awesome.
appreciative for that. That's yes, in the works
was
right
com-
now.
Was that completed already? The window project? Or was it already?
No, we're waiting on.
I'm just wondering if the article went through.
We're just waiting on.
Quotes and stuff.
Yes, we're just waiting on the actual work.
So the money's been already appropriated, okay.
Yeah, Joe, I'll jump in. The money's been appropriated. We've already gone out to bid. We've selected the contractor. We've executed the contract. Contractor's been out working with Liz and a consultant, and they're in the process of ordering all the materials. So
I'm always thinking a capital plan in the back of my mind, and I think you went over that with us, and we might have removed that from the capital plan because it was already funded.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
All right, that's good. That's exciting. I can't wait to see the improvements over there. I'm sure the windows will windows have a way of paying us back, and heat and air conditioning and everything else across the board. So not to mention that they're going to look great and really make the building look sharp. So that's awesome. All right. That's all I had, unless there was anything else you had to share, Liz.
Sorry, I didn't hear all of that. I'm sorry.
I said that. Was there anything else you wanted to share with us?
Oh, not that I can think of right now. Thank you.
Okay. Any final questions for Liz?
No, just looking forward to stopping by the library when it opens to the public.
Awesome. Absolutely. We all
Yes,
are.
we look forward to having everyone back.
All right. Great. Thanks very much, Liz. Thanks, Pat. You guys
Thanks,
have a good
Liz.
evening.
Thanks, Pat.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pat.
Yes.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Deli, you there?
I was muted. Do you want to go, want to hit the easy stuff first?
We're going to go through the operational budget first, and then we'll, I know you've got a lot of fun stuff, and then we'll come back to articles at the end, if that's okay.
Okay.
I
didn't think there was any easy stuff, Delshawn. It's good. It's good news.
Who was that? I'm sorry, I didn't see everybody.
That was Bill Stewart. Just saying, I didn't know there were any easy things on your agenda. So let's head right into it.
Yeah, we all know, right? Nothing's easy when it comes to me. Just ask my husband, right?
It's not you.
That's true. No. It comes with the territory, the job.
I'm having fun.
All right, so we'll start at the top for you. Deli.
You're gonna go straight for the big guns, right? You're gonna go right to the waste budget?
That's it. Waste disposal and collection. What do we got?
Fun stuff. Where's Biz? I need her with this.
I'm here, Deli. I'm never
too.
far away, as you know, and they know.
Yeah, so, okay, so obviously the first two are the landfill. Both are full-time now. Thank you very much. Last year, you guys, we split it 50-50. At some point, I will come to you and ask for 100%, but I'll take what I can get right now.
And when you mean by that, Deli, is that 50% is coming from the fees, right? Your revolving account?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, we do like that. So let's continue on.
Wait, John, like I said, in a couple years, I'm going to be coming to look for 100%. A lot of our money in that revolving account is going to the renovations. But again, we'll get there. Landfill attendant uniforms, basic landfill maintenance.
Get level there.
Yep. I think we're leveled everywhere except for when it comes to trash and the disposal. So right now I'm currently working with Todd Cope from DEP to put out an RFP for a new trash contract. We are going through the initial stages right now of interviews to see what we can do.
Yeah, can you go with like some of these more local companies, or do you have to choose one of the big dogs? I mean,
I know we don't. So that's why we're putting out an RFP.
good.
Just to see what is out there. We know right now there's so many different, surprisingly enough, I've only had 3 interested people with initial interviews so far.
Has Troop come to you yet?
Troop is just commercial. They don't like residential. They like, they don't do municipalities. They call them munis.
Yeah, that was really my question too, Troop.
Yeah. I have a great relationship with Troop. I enjoy Troop. I reached out to them personally, and John Troop just said, that's not where they're at. that don't
I
do
mean,
residential.
Yeah, that's fine. The,
Yeah.
as far as the barrels go, right? Because we had a little bit of a
Totes.
conversation about barrels, the totes. Do we own those? Because I feel like
We
pay
do
for
own those.
We own
do
those
own
barrels. So when we
We
go to a
own
new
those.
contract,
Those
we're-
are
we're
our
not-
barrels. They're
we're
stamped
not,
with the
we're just
Rockland
saying
seal.
you got to empty our barrels. We're not getting new barrels.
Hey, Dell,
Exactly.
didn't you mention that Republic still owns some of those? And if we did cancel the contract, we'd have to pay them for some barrels?
We do have, so, one of the, one thing that we offer is that, residents that feel that they have a lot of waste disposal, they can purchase service for an extra tote. And those extra totes, I believe there's about 75 people in the town, and I'm estimating high, that have an extra trash tote, and they pay for those. And it's $60 a quarter to service that extra tote. That tote isn't ours. So those are the totes that are out on the streets that are our Republic totes. And that's how we're able to recognize if somebody has 2 trash totes. Why do they have 2 trash totes? So that's, people take totes from other vacant properties.
But contractually, that's the only thing that you're going to do is you're asking for as part of your RFP is that they have a similar program where the customers, the 75 or so residents, can buy additional service from them.
Yes, and you can still do that.
That's it.
But
Yeah, that's fine.
Those totes were just signifying that those people purchased that service, not the tote, the service.
Got it. Okay. All right. So we're looking at a bump here that's really tied to the additional cost for trash. And
And when we first started, Biz is raising her hand.
I just want to give you an update. You received updated reports yesterday and then a better one today. But under disposal fee, there is an increase in that we budgeted for because we are asking for additional money this year through the special articles, free cash, use of free cash. So from the administration side, we did feel it was prudent to bump that up to 440. And that should be in your new budget report that you got
440?
today. Yeah, 440, because we had to increase it. I think I asked for, yeah, additional funding. I can't remember how much exactly it was for, but we did.
414.
Okay, yeah, so we did bump that up. Okay,
From 414 to 440?
yes, please.
that's a 13% increase year over year in the disposal.
Correct.
So let's all keep in mind that we just came from, an awkward year.
Mhm.
People are home. Disposal costs went through the roof.
Mhm.
People are home. Commercial is
correct.
down, residential's up.
So now the balance to this is that there's fees on the other side, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so hypothetically, okay, I want to make sure I understand this. Hypothetically, 2021 ends up being, we have less disposal for 2021 going into, or the rest of 2021, not fiscal, right? We go into fiscal 23, is it possible that we could see a reduction in this because we had less trash? I mean, is this line just changed by
That's
trash?
tonnage.
Is this
It's based on,
tonnage?
so
Any
There's-
changes would be minimal from year to year going forward. Because your
Well, I
contract's
mean,
going to change, it should go up.
13%.
No, I know, but it will be minimum changing because as Delhi goes through her contracts and her RFPs, she's going to have changes because it's costing them more money to dispose. So the town, it's going to cost us more money to dispose. Does that sound right, Delhi?
yes.
So But I'm trying to understand though, if we go put an RFP out, right, and we say, all right, based on the tonnage of this past fiscal year, which was crazy because of COVID, as you said,
Well,
between, a part of this year and a part of last year fiscally, if we go and ask for an RFP and they come in and bid based on that tonnage, and then we go back to normal, because when we do go back to normal, the trash tonnage will also go back to normal.
well, you would hope so. You would hope that businesses would take back their, go back to their offices. But the RFP that I'm working on right now is for the refuse collection and not the disposal. We have a contract right now with Covanta on the disposal.
Okay.
And I think we have to look at this, John, and members of the committee, from the new normal. And new normal may mean more people work remotely from home. And that's got to be part of our thought process as well.
Exactly. I agree, Biz.
The offset to this could be in the future, if the town decides that there's an increase in the trash collection because of all of these increases in the tonnage, increases in the refuse collection. I mean, these numbers are unsustainable without, increasing something somewhere or offsetting it. So is that going to be part of your discussion tonight, Deli? Is anything to do with trash collection fees?
Yes. Well, I don't know. I'll let Biz speak on that.
The fee is being examined at this point, and the Board of Health has a meeting next week. I believe it's on Tuesday night, Tilly, is that correct? Or late Tuesday afternoon?
Yes, so 5:30, March 9th, Tuesday, we are having a board meeting to discuss the rate increase.
Yeah, I'll just be even more direct, John. The fees need to go up. They have to. And I've said it at selectmen meetings, and I keep saying it just to prepare the public. I mean, the Board of Health is doing everything right. None of these increases are due to any kind of mismanagement. It's happening regionally, it's happening nationally, and the fees have to keep up with the costs. Simple as that. And so
I'm very familiar with it. I'm just trying to, and I'm just asking the questions and getting the conversation out there. I think you're right.
I'm really afraid to, thank you, Doug, because I was really afraid. That does need to be said. Unfortunately, it goes to the taxpayer, and it's so hard to say that, but it does. And it looks like it's going to be a significant increase. There's so many different factors. So when people don't pay the trash fees that are based on, so when you get your trash bill or whatever, and you don't pay it because some people like to take that on their real estate tax, so it becomes a special assessment on their real estate tax. We only get that money when they pay that. And then you have to think about all those people that don't pay their real estate bill. That's all affecting our trash bills. And unfortunately, at this time, it's going to be a significant increase. And I know last year was a significant increase, and it's.
Yeah, I understand. These are stuff that's.
I know. And yeah, and I have to be the bad guy.
Down. Yeah. The revenue's not matching the costs associated, and it's getting to be detrimental to the whole budgeting system for the town.
And the last thing I'll add to it, John, just to, keep piling on here, but in the future down the road, as Deli said, she has a contract, the town has a contract with Covanta for the actual disposal fee, the tipping fee. That's going to increase over time as well, just like it does for every other community. And there's only so many places you can go to, for the trucks to actually dispose of the waste. And that will, in addition to the pickup, the disposal fee itself will also increase over time. So it's going to keep going up, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, I liked, a few years ago, Deli, you had sounded like a great idea. It unfortunately didn't work out, but I'm waiting for that next great idea where we can say, we can do X within our little, transfer station that we have going on over there. We can do something that will alleviate some of the tonnage that we send downstream. And somehow, whatever it is, it's recyclables or whatever it is, but
Yeah.
hopefully at some point that'll present itself. I noticed data processing going up by $1,000. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a big number, but was there a reason for data processing going up?
So that is our billing system.
Okay.
So when we send out the bills, that portion is my portion. So water, sewer, and trash each have a percentage of that bill, a third. And so that's our third for the trash billing.
All right. Moving on from trash. That was a lot of fun.
That was, I thought that was a lot easier than I expected.
Great job, Deli. Great job.
Yeah, that's all.
And you know what? Listen, I wouldn't be here at this point if it wasn't for Biz and Doug. I honestly would not be here if it wasn't for Biz and Doug. They have been so helpful for me. And we're just trying. We're really trying to get this department working efficiently for everybody.
Yeah, that's good. Now, hey, listen, you've
Thank you,
had
Billy.
you've had the toughest year of any department head in terms
That's
of
for
just
sure.
dealing with
Wait.
the million
No.
conference calls you must have been on. I can only imagine.
And I didn't do it alone. Again, Biz and Doug, and Jen. I've had a great support system. It's wonderful working with everybody. It really is. You're gonna make me cry. Doug, don't look.
This is like the Academy Awards.
I'm very dramatic.
Deli, relax, will you?
I'm glad you feel so more comfortable this year, Deli, doing this than last year. You were so nervous last year. This year, you seem like you're being
He's on
professional and you know what you're
And
talking
again, you gotta deal with Corona.
Ah,
You
COVID.
know? On top of that, you gotta deal with the COVID. It's-
Yeah. No, last year was a trash strike. This year it's COVID.
Right.
I don't think I ever remember going, I can't wait to be a health agent.
All right, so for your salary line items, I'm not seeing a lot of movement here. We've got the 6% for salary administrative assistant. Is that a step that they hit?
Yeah, the part-time, it's the full-time administrative assistant. Yes, she's getting a step increase.
Okay. All right, good for her. That's good. I don't see there's any questions here on the Board of Health budget for 510. Any questions, anybody?
Nope.
Okay.
Lori Childs,
And-
nothing?
You've got your little note down here about the revolving fund direct charge, 10% of the office salary.
Yep.
So that's something that comes out of revolving funds that helps pay back to take some of the stress off the budget. So that's good stuff.
Deli, question from Bill Stewart here. I know you guys have to do a lot of communication with people who've tested positive and you get that information in your office. Have you guys been able to keep up with that? And if so, has it been at the expense of doing other things that the Board of Health is supposed to be doing?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, we were 99% COVID. And I do go back to when my full-time assistant started. She started in the middle of a trash strike. And then we took a deep breath and then COVID hit. So she's not even really up to speed where she's at. So it has been 12-hour days every single day. And not one, last weekend was the first Sunday I did nothing. I mean, not one email, nothing. It was so wonderful since March of last year.
So yeah, I know you've put in a lot of extra hours, and I'm sure your staff has chipped in too. But you know, COVID is 99% of what you're doing. It was 0% of what you were doing a year ago. So what things aren't being done, and are we at risk because they're not being done as you focus on the immediate needs?
Nope. So on that, we have, with the assistance of the CARES Act money, Biz and Doug both agreed. We had hired an outside vendor. They did the food inspections, so that didn't fall behind. So we were on top of a lot of things. Housing inspections still happened, but they weren't as much. The phones, nonstop with the phones. But you know, you persevere and you just move on. It's I can't wait to be able to get back to other things, getting
Normal-
educated and
normal thing.
moving on.
Yeah.
You know, and listen, just a small little boop, boop for my board. My board, amazing. You know, our board members all have qualifications to be on a board. And, you know, Steve Nelson, he's up this year. He has been extremely helpful. He's a licensed sanitarian. Like every single one of my board members brings something to the board to be able to be a member. Scott Margolis, emergency management, you know, he's been a part of helping with trying to get the vaccines here in Rockland. That's our next venture. And Christine Stewart, she is a physical therapist. So everybody brings something. She's got healthcare background. They've been very helpful through this whole thing as well.
Deli, one other question around COVID. I know you had some incidents back in the fall, probably, with restaurants violating the public health orders. Has that settled down? Are the restaurants cooperating now?
The restaurants are cooperating, but the state has been a huge help. ABCC goes out to all these places. You know, they've issued warnings. It's been good. Yes, things have calmed down.
The
You know,
biggest,
you still get the phone calls daily, you know, so-and-so won't go into 7-Eleven. Where's Derek Yule? I had to giggle when he said Little Peach, because I always call it Little Peach. But yeah, so we still get those kind of phone calls, but they are few and far between now.
But you had incidents earlier in the year where
Yes.
where you were going to restaurants with a police officer, with a member of the Board of Health,
Yep.
and telling them to shut down,
Absolutely.
repeatedly
Yes.
violating. And it was like,
Yep.
I know it wasn't widespread, it was several places,
Oh,
but it sounds like whatever you did, you put the fear of God in them, and you haven't had that problem in the last few months.
Nope, I haven't had that problem. Right now it's just, you know, they like to tattle on each other. So I shouldn't say tattle on each other, but they inform me of when another establishment is doing something that they shouldn't. So it is nice because I don't know unless I go there, you know, but a lot of places have been very in good compliance. You know, you get your one or two that don't want to, but for most part, yes, everybody is good. And like I said, we had that company come out, and anytime I had any issues, they also went and they did COVID education with them.
That's great.
right,
Kelly, realistically, do you think the Commonwealth will ever really give the town any vaccinations for residents?
No, not for local boards to administer. Unfortunately, it is the saddest part of my job. Through all of this, I go to meetings. I do online courses with emergency management. trying to, with the EDS site. Because that is one thing that they, one big job with boards of health. If there's in the event of an emergency, you initiate your EDS site. And we were planning that. Doug Lapp again, Chief Duffy, we weekly meetings, 2 times a week meetings, trying to prepare for this. And what a letdown it was.
So you already have a plan in place to administer vaccines between substitute teachers, volunteer.
Oh my
nurses
God,
that live
I
in
sent
town.
out letters to all RNs in the town of Rockland. Well, not all RNs, probably about 75. What a response I got from so many people that wanted to volunteer. We had a program. We had a plan.
We have the capacity to do it. It's just that we don't have vaccines. Yeah.
We had people, we had volunteers. Yeah, we had a crew, and we still have a crew. So if they ever do say, go ahead, we're ready. However, I was so disappointed this morning because I really thought the only thing that they are going to allow us to do is vaccinate Rockland Housing Authority. So at some point, they're going to issue us some vaccines for about 100 people that live in Rockland Housing Authority.
Right.
I was looking forward to the state saying, here, we're going to give you another 1,000 vaccines. Go do your schools. And they're not doing that. So not only did we have to tell our elderly, go somewhere else, we have to tell our teachers to go somewhere else.
They have to go to
I think the schools are supposed to get something in March. That's what my wife was told, that they might get something.
March 11th.
March 11th.
Yeah, so it's right around the corner for them. I mean, the bottom line is they get it.
Yeah, but where do they got to go to get it?
They
Marshfield.
They have to sign up. And
Right.
at 5:30 this morning, you couldn't, if you don't hop on, you're gonna be in a waiting area.
Right. Well, looking at your public health nurse, you're flat year over year for 40,000. Is that enough? Did we square away that problem? I know that was kind of a tough one for last year.
No, I think we would be good with that.
Yeah.
Are we spending that money, or do we have a public health nurse, or what are we doing with it?
We don't have that money. We don't have a public health nurse. All we have is me.
Okay.
This is what you get.
So that money.
So where does the 40 grand go?
Kelly, let me help you out.
You want to split it with me, Doug?
Let me just help you out.
Aren't you outsourcing that, Deli?
The problem, Joe, is that we've not been able, during a pandemic, there's a shortage of public health nursing agencies.
I get it. Yeah.
Right. So we had a public health nursing vendor and they jumped ship and bailed on us last June 30th because they didn't have the capacity. And so we've been trying to hire, retired nurses, trying to hire companies, Deli's chase down every possible lead she can. So we want to keep the money in, and we're going to do everything we can to get a different company in or person in to help us as soon as we can.
Okay. All right. So the money's in the budget. We're not able to hire because the talent pool is not there.
And go back to fiscal year 21, even fiscal year 20. That 20,000 isn't enough to give the community back what it needs, what a public health nurse can offer.
But the 40 is.
Flu clinics, all sorts of things.
So Deli, is the 40 sufficient? Or you don't know until you get to hire someone?
I wouldn't know until we hire somebody. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Deli,
Right now-
is that a 40-hour a week job?
No, it wouldn't be.
Get that pay.
Yeah, it wouldn't be.
All right.
It wouldn't be no, it wouldn't be a full time.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
So let me ask this, because it hasn't been filled or been filled sporadically here and there when you can find someone, what aren't we doing in public health that we should be doing? You mentioned flu clinics. What else is falling through the cracks here?
Well, since COVID started everything, so you couldn't do any of those things that they would offer. Because
What,
you're,
what
you know,
kind of things would they offer? For those of us who don't know what a public health nurse would do, what kind of
public,
services, their programs that they would run? What do they do?
so in the past, our, all they were doing was, blood pressure clinics. But and that's because of the, you know, the budget item, there wasn't a lot of, money. So we couldn't really offer much, but there are so many different things. Again, flu clinics, blood pressure checks, all sorts of kind of, programs that we could offer.
Kelly, didn't you mention to me once that we had 1 or 2 people that had a serious infection that was contagious that had to be monitored by the health nurse? And I
Yes.
mean, that can be costly, and it was just one individual. It was just one individual. I
That's-
mean, we can't name names, but
No, yeah.
or even
There
what
are
type of
certain-
infection was, but
Yeah,
it was a contagious
Certain kind
infection that
of-
had been monitored.
exactly. Yep.
All right, so get back to us on that. One of the things that I had discussed with Doug with this, when this came up the last time was whether or not there was an opportunity to partner with a neighboring town to try and get a full-time person. Because of, you know, we put up 40, they put up 40, now you got somebody. But in any case, I'm sure you guys are going through all those different strategies and trying to get this position filled, but we understand the climate.
Good point, John.
Anything else in the operational budget? Okay, any further questions in the operational budget for Delhi?
Everything
Okay.
looks-
I lost the budget on my screen.
huh?
I stopped sharing.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay.
I had it, just,
So, Delhi, outside of the operational budget, let's just talk briefly about the landfill site itself. Are you presenting any articles on that? Is there any like burning need for repair up there? I mean, where do we stand with that? I know there's a road going in and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we wanted to be able to finish the grade on the road. So I don't know if anybody's been there, but what a huge difference.
Yeah, it is.
Huh? Who's that?
Yeah,
Bobby?
it's beautiful. Bobby, yeah.
I
It's,
can't-
it's nice. It's not even done yet. It's
And it's not even done.
great.
No, I'm excited
Right.
to see what you do down by the main building, and when you grade it, so all the
So what we
roll-offs
wanna
get to go
do is-
underground. The roll-offs
Yeah.
get to be on an incline, so people can dispose of stuff much easier.
Mhm. You know, that facility's been ignored for years. I say it every year.
Yep.
When you get other people that care about certain things, and again, sorry, Doug, but again, like you don't even realize in the past what you could ask for. You know what I mean? Like everything was like a wish list and oh, maybe one day. And then when you put it down and you put it in words or whatever, and you get the support, big things can happen. And
Yep.
big things are gonna happen at that recycling center.
So,
I can't wait.
Do you have any articles going into the recycling center this year?
Yes, so we're looking for, I think, is it 120,000, Doug?
Was it 200?
Yeah, 120. I think.
120.
120, okay.
To finish the road.
To finish the road.
Right.
Anything else?
And then, of course, we've got money in the revolving account that we are working with CDM Smith. No. Is it CDM
CDM,
Smith?
just CDM.
To do a study on making it more fluid over there. So that's gonna come out of my revolving account. That's why I started with, someday I'm gonna ask you guys to come fully fund the other position because we're gonna run out of money. And I think Rockland residents deserve, we have a great, that location is awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
There's
It
no
really
surrounding-
is. It could be so,
There's no surrounding towns that have
It's
anything
got
like it.
huge potential.
It
Huge
does.
potential.
it does. And when we get there, we can go tri-town and we can
Well,
get more
yeah, I
money
think,
from other people.
I think, Delhi, when you do come back to us and, you know, and even you don't have to wait for budget season to come back to us and kind of have a conversation with us on your thoughts. You know, what's your 1 year, your 3 year, your 5 year plan? And what are your thoughts about how you're going to pay for it, or the department's going to pay for it, or where the taxpayers are going to need to have, you know, step up and help out. And again, if there's we talked about this before. We did this with the roll-off containers. The town invested money, but we didn't have to rent containers, so it pays for itself over time. That's the secret sauce to getting all of these things done.
Yeah.
Now we need a truck so we can bring our own containers and don't have to pay a company to.
Don't give Delhi any ideas.
No, but there's so many grants, and I'm in the process of doing additional grants. I think last year we got like 20 grand. But you know what I'm going for this year is a trash compactor for our cardboard. Amazon is driving me crazy, and it's preventing people's recycling to get picked up because they just shove their big cardboard boxes without breaking them down. So I'm filing for a grant to get a trash compactor so we can minimize our
I know commercial is not something that you physically handle, but at my building, I separated my recycling from my regular trash, my cardboard, if you will, from my regular trash. And I was able to maintain level cost for my trash disposal at Bowen Alley year over year. So my numbers didn't go up, but my cardboard bin gets emptied once a month. My trash bin gets emptied every week. And I got smaller trash bin because I didn't have as much trash. So there are strategies that can be employed to help us offset that stuff. And I have a feeling the cost of cardboard and maybe the value of cardboard will go up. So if there's an opportunity there, you know, let's wrap a plan around it. But in any case, we're excited to hear more from you on that. Any other articles that you had to present?
That's it.
All right, 120,000 for the finished road. And then the study you're taking out of your revolving account. That's great. All right, any final questions for Delhi?
Nope, great job, Delhi.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Delhi.
guys.
Thanks very much, Delhi. Great job.
Everybody
this year.
stay tuned to our board meeting on the 9th at
I'm looking
5:30.
forward to it. I'm going to jump in.
Must see TV.
Right.
See you later.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye, Delhi.
Bye, Delhi.
Bye, Delhi.
Bye.
All right, Biz, I'm just looking for your transfer request. We're going to jump on that next.
Yep.
Thank you.
While you're bringing that up, I can explain it. I think I sent it to everybody. I'm not sure. I'm requesting $4,000 to go to the registrar's budget, which falls under the town clerk, to pay for mail-in voting and ballots that we had to mail out, votes coming in. And this started due to COVID. So our first elections and primaries were in September. And this is also going to take us through our own town elections. At this point, I don't think we're required to do early voting, but we are required to do the mail-in voting if someone requires a ballot or requests a ballot. We don't just automatically send them out. They'll have to request. And that's something that Liza will be publishing as we get closer to elections. Right now, the account is in deficit by $2,934.80. After discussing it with Liza, we feel as though the additional funding will help cover this through the end of the fiscal year.
So this is the 4,000 that you're looking for on this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I make a motion, we do the transfer of $4,000.
Second.
A motion by Bill Stewart. I'm going to take a second by Bill Principe because it's kind of cool to have two bills. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's a vote. That's approved. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
You did also share with me, a second, this is just a summary of where the fund is at. So I'll share this up with everyone and we'll kind of make sure that we're on the same point with that. All right, so this is just our balance sheet, if you will, for our reserve fund.
Can you enlarge that a tad? I'm going blind.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
He's up against the screen here.
How's that? All right.
Looks good now.
All right. So after tonight's transfer of 4,000, that would put us at 156,837.81. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
And I will only come to you for funding if absolutely necessary. I may have to come back. I'll find out in the next few weeks for additional derelict property funding. We have had another incident that requires some boarding up.
Okay.
So just a heads up, if I don't have to come, I won't, but I just want to give you a little bit of a.
Is that Spring Street?
I'm not sure what street it was on. I think it was West Water. And the last few days, I don't think it's Spring. I think this is a different one.
Cause Spring, the guy's still there.
No, then it
No.
would, it wouldn't be Spring. This is something different.
Well,
That from the
Spring
public.
is fenced off, but he goes there at night.
Well, if he's
still.
going there at night, then we need to know that. So Town Administrator Lapp can let the police department know they may want to take another look at that property.
Well, I mentioned it to a cop because he
Okay.
pulls his SUV right to the left of the place and
Okay.
goes over.
Is he entering the building to your knowledge?
Yeah, he goes in the
Okay.
building, he goes in the camper, he goes in
Okay.
the truck, the tractor trailer that's out back. He's just never left.
Okay, well, again, that's something that that Mr. Lapp can address with Chief Llewellyn and also with the building inspector.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said,
The place has got.
putting up buildings like that is generally good money well spent for the town. But in any case, Biz, I brought up this, you sent over your certified free cash and kind of this is the plan around what we're going to be using the free cash for.
Mhm.
You had a couple of highlights in here. So probably just need any changes that you wanted to review on this?
Yep, pretty much what you see highlighted are the changes that we've made in the last week or two. And this is still a work in progress where we don't think it's going to change again. We're quickly coming up on our town meeting warrant deadline. So we think this is accurate. Our current deficit as of February 26th was $361,000 in the snow and ice. So we now have that at 440 to help offset that. Anything that we don't cover at, just as a reminder, anything we don't cover at town meeting will have an impact on our recap. So there'll be less money when we get to the recap stage. Again, the disposal fee, that's something I had spoken of earlier with Delhi's budget, the health insurance, the transfers out, which we had talked about. So what I've done here is I've reduced the accountant's holdback. Doug knows my position where I want it all, but I can't have it. I have to share it. So my accountant's
We fight a
holdback.
lot about that, by the way.
Yes, we do. So the holdback right now is at $259,000, and that's because some of that money had to go fund some other issues. If you'll scroll down a little bit, John. Okay, here you will see 7 election tabulators and also poll pads. It will be 7 and 7. The tabulators are the machines when you go in and you do your vote and you put it into the machine. That's a tabulator. And we did review it with Liza. Gino and I worked with Liza. We've spoken with the vendor and the equipment is obsolete. There will be no parts going forward to repair these and they do need to be replaced. Right now, we're requesting $45,000. The estimate we got last week was $48,500. And the balance of $3,500 would come out of the IT budget to cover the difference.
Replace
7 tabulators and 7 poll pads. So that pretty much covers the precincts.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're working on having this bundled as well to try and get a cheaper price. So if we get a cheaper price, we'll update you, but it looks like 45,000 at this point. School technology.
Check Amazon on that one.
I'm sorry.
Standard.
Okay, school technology, standard $100,000. School vehicle lease payments, they do have some leases that are being paid off this year. There are 4 that are paid off in August at roughly $624 each. But we would prefer to keep them level at the $70,000 so they can continue on with their lease replacement plan, so that when their vehicles are no longer serviceable, they can get them replaced.
So Biz, if that money goes into vehicle lease payments for the school department,
Yes, sir.
the 70,000,
Yes.
if they don't spend it, because it's an article now, it's gonna sit in that until the following, maybe the following year, they go back and they say, oh yeah, we actually do need a couple of vehicles, then they'll have 70,000 to start with.
Right, that what will be happening this year due to, COVID and some of the other issues that the school department has been facing. They're working on their lease agreements now. So we thought it was prudent. We talked to the school department that we would keep them at the $70,000 so that they can maintain their equipment. And with this, I would, as equipment rolls off, equipment will be replaced. So for now, that 70,000 is prudent for the school to keep them doing what they need to do. And once they have their leases, they will spend their lease money in the fiscal year. Since I've been here, I haven't been here, I've been here 2 years. Since I've been here, they have spent all the money in their leases. And if they're late on a payment, it leaves them with the money to pay in the next fiscal year.
I did have a question about the marijuana host community agreement. So the money that comes in through that, how is that treated? Is that treated as part of the 70-30 split or not?
No, these are 2 different things. I will speak to it very briefly and then Doug can jump in. We have a host community agreement, which the cannabis companies that come into town, they pay us a certain percentage each year and it goes into a special revenue fund. At the special town meeting, we are setting up a host agreement fund account, which is a special purpose stabilization fund. That will be at the special prior to the annual. And then Doug, you can take it from here.
Yeah, so thanks, Biz. So
You're welcome.
it's different money that's related to the impacts in the community associated with having the marijuana dispensaries. So as Biz noted, the latest guidelines and directives from the Department of Revenue are that you should put it in a separate special purpose stabilization fund. So at the selectmen's meeting last night, we actually voted a use of funds policy. So it's an actual policy on what types of things these host community agreement funds can be used on. And that's also going to be helpful for me because I can now take that document and send it to the Cannabis Control Commission to document it to them, because that's something that I need to do. There are a variety of different allowable uses of funds. So for example, we're going to pay for 2 police cruisers from that type of thing is appropriate. If the school needs to get another school resource officer in the future with a new elementary school, these host community agreement funds are limited in duration. They're only 5 years, but for 5 years, we could either partially or fully fund an SRO out of it, that type of thing. So these are essentially what the state considers impact fees. So it's a little bit different. I hope that helps. And I can certainly share the use of funds policy with you guys later if you'd like, but it's broad to cover all the different types of things all the different types of impacts we may face. And a big chunk of it we want to do is try to help with funding public safety capital purchases, since these are not going to be permanent recurring fees. And that'll help free up our free cash for other purposes.
So Doug, this host agreement is only lasting for 5 years?
That's correct. We're only allowed to require them for 5 years. We're certainly going to request that they continue afterwards, but there's no obligation from the dispensary. They don't have to do it. After 5 years, they could say we're done. So,
Okay.
yeah, and but it's per dispensary. So 2 have already opened, and
Right.
2 more have been approved, but they've not been opened yet. So those next 2, that clock hasn't started ticking yet. We haven't received any of those funds yet.
We're gonna have 4 in town?
We could have even more than 4 if more apply and more get permits. There's no cap. There's no limit in Rockland. We've not passed a bylaw to limit it, but we have 4 that have been fully approved through the local permitting process.
Wow.
Wow.
Are they going to be sustainable?
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll see how many. We'll see what the market can bear. After a certain point, I imagine they're just going to cannibalize sales from each other. The market, I assume, is only so big, but other communities don't either limit it or they restrict it to only medical. We're in a pretty good spot right off the highway where our district is. So we'll see how many can be sustainable. Nobody knows.
Yeah,
And
supply
it's
and demand will dictate it, yeah.
Right. It's important to note too that these agreements have specific funding. The minimum is 100,000. Maximum is 500,000, but they don't have to provide us with this funding until the year after they open. So we just need to be mindful that we're not going to be getting a windfall. It's limited,
Right.
and that's why we want to set up the fund so that we're very cautious with how it's spent going forward. Just a good fiscal management practice.
This is something, obviously, the school committee and the school department is they're up on the use of funds policy, and they're aware of where we can use this to help offset some of their costs that they incur because of it.
Yeah.
Because of marijuana.
For example, if the school has, substance abuse prevention programs, things like that, that's a perfectly acceptable, use of these funds. And then these are the types of things as we build the money up that we'll be talking to Dr. Cron about.
It should not be used for budgetary offset, though, in a general sense of the word.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know you mentioned the SRO officer. That might be maybe one exception to it being like an operational position, but it's good that it's available and something that can be used to help the town with their budgeting. All right, good stuff there. Any other review on free cash, Biz?
Not on the free cash. If you want to go down a little bit lower, we got the school covered. These are the standard articles for the water department, which we know are by the water commissioners, and then the sewer commissioners are below that. From the town standpoint, we're recommending a stabilization fund, enterprise funds, as you all know.
Right.
We meet with the sewer department next Tuesday, I believe, at 4:00 to go over their requests, their budgets, and enterprise funds with them.
All right. Good summary, great information. All right. Anything else on the free cash? Now, Biz, there was, and I'm not sure if you articulated that in the last, because you sent me one more budget that you said use this one.
Yes, this afternoon I sent it. The one that I sent you before had too many columns in it. It had too much stuff. So this is the summary report that we'll be using going forward. It's a PDF file. I emailed it about 3:30, 4 o'clock this afternoon. I believe I sent it to everybody. So this summary, the original document I gave you shows you the original summary, then the budget snapshot. When it got to the general fund, it was like 39 pages and the page lineups were wrong and everything. So we do want to point out a couple of things here. We have been talking about union negotiations, wage increases, etc. Doug might want to speak to this line that you see at the bottom of theirs.
Let me start with this one, Biz. So, we just started negotiating with a couple of the unions, and we have to do all the rest of them coming up as well. And so it's obviously, puts me in a difficult spot to list out in each individual line item exactly how much, I have available. It completely undercuts my whole, negotiating position. So what Biz and I did is, we looked at how other towns handle this situation. And what we'd like to do is what we're proposing here, which is if an individual employee, like myself, for example, if I have an individual employment contract that goes through next year, then we have those individual dollar amounts listed. But for all the union contracts that are up for renegotiation, and for all the other non-union employees that don't have individual employment contracts, instead, what we want to do is have a dollar amount, have an amount that we're setting aside to settle all the contracts. But I don't want to tip my hand and say exactly how much it's going to be for each one, because then, that's no way to do a negotiation, right? So what we've done is we've pulled out from everything that's not settled through negotiations and just put it all into that one line, a wage adjustment obligation line. So once we negotiate all those contracts, and I, settle on an amount as well for all the non-union, non-contractual personnel, then the money would come out of there and then would obviously get allocated among each individual appropriate line item. So this is just sort of a shift. So it looks like a big bump in the selectmen's budget, but then a associated reduction to all the others. So I hope that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, so when we had spoken the last time, actually the last couple of weeks, we said there were some modifications to the budgets. And we would be getting those modifications to you this week, so you could have time to look at it. And we can address the majority of it next week. If you scroll down a little bit, I want to go to the highlighted areas, or the areas which have the most impact. One of them is, we've already gone over the waste disposal, but let's look at the education line. That's Department 300. And we had originally.
Increase the size of that, John.
I will as soon as I get there.
Department 300, John, right there. There you go. As I'm going straight to my screen. Unfortunately, yeah, we had anticipated being able to give the school just a little bit over $26 million. If you see here, we're now at a decrease over the 21 budget of $282,000. The reason that there's a decrease is that there's a substantial increase in the health insurance costs. There's also increases to, which is part of the 70-30 split. There's increases to the retirement costs. There's increases to the professional liability insurances. So those things alone, you add them up, it's roughly $1 million that we had increases on that. We aren't happy with it, but this is kind of where we are. We did meet with Dr. Cron and Mrs. Hackett on Tuesday to discuss this information before it went to the Board of Selectmen and before we distributed it to you. This is, other than the benefits going up, it's also a direct result of the Chapter 70 being reduced. The school department is working very diligently to work with DESE on the increased Chapter 70. They have sent some information up. Doug, do you want to speak to that aspect of it, where they,
yeah,
the
so
model?
Apparently the latest I heard from Dr. Cron is through their advocacy efforts, DESE is actually looking at Rockland as kind of a case study, sort of poster child about how the impact of COVID can have like just a horrible impact on the Student Opportunities Act formula, because it's literally just a very small number of students opting out to go homeschooling has tipped the scales in such a way that, we essentially lost out on over $800,000 of additional funding through no fault of the Rockland Public School District. And Rockland is not the only school district in this situation. There's many, many more communities. So we're really hoping, and we think that this is going to get corrected through House Ways and Means as the budget works its way through. And we're supporting them. We've signed off, I think I showed you maybe at the last meeting, the Board of Selectmen signed a letter along with the full school committee, urging the correction of this formula. I think the other point you wanted to make too, when Biz and I talked to Dr. Cron and Jane, is, there's a lot of other funding that the school has access to. There's other federal funding and grants, but then in particular, as everybody knows, there's that $1.9 trillion stimulus package that's going to be coming shortly. And I think a good chunk of that is going to be dedicated to schools. So altogether between, this is obviously very difficult, what you're looking at on the screen. But if you add in, the other federal funding and grants that they have access to already, plus what we hope will be significant additional Chapter 70 aid coming in with the state budget, plus Rockland's share of the federal stimulus, we're essentially banking on having a special town meeting in the summer that's going to supplement these appropriations and get this number back up to a more reasonable number. But
with that in mind, Doug, are we planning extra money in the town clerk's budget for elections?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
For town meetings, yes.
All right. Well, obviously, this was kind of a little bit of a change, or a good chunk
a
of a
big
change
change,
for the school department, and they that's why they asked to give them another week to kind of reset their table.
Mhm.
So we'll get to them next week. All right. Any good news to share, by the way?
Well, it's not as bad as last year. That's all I can say. Hopefully it stays okay.
what I would say is the good news would be, this is hard for sure, but we're not using stabilization and other one-time sources of revenue to balance the operating budget. And on the contrary, going back to that free cash sheet you showed a minute ago, we're trying to replenish a little bit of what we took out. So, we believe that we're taking the appropriate, conservative, responsible measures. I think that's good news.
And as Doug had said earlier in a meeting with Dr. Cronin and Jane, we were prudent and we voted June 22nd, and we had cut our budgets then, and then in November we upped them, but other communities didn't take the same route that we did, so they're now going into their stabilization funds and finding it difficult, but we were more proactive.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Biz and Doug regarding the budget and the?
Can we get this budget in Excel, not in PDF, please?
I can send this to you in Excel. Yes.
Now, is this our final budgets, Biz?
To the best of our knowledge, this will be our final budget. If we have any positive news between now and I believe it's March 29th or April 6th, and we have more positive news, then we can adjust this.
Right, but is this what's going out to go to print?
We will find out in the next couple of weeks if this is our final. If there are changes, it will only be to the positive.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Just a quick question before we go too far down.
Sure.
What happens if the Fed comes in with a bunch of money and the Chapter 70 gets replaced and all of that, and we have that perfect storm of good news happen for us?
Yep. We will address it as quickly as we can. So if we can adjust this budget before we get to town meeting, that's the plan. If we can't adjust this budget and we don't have any positive information until July, then the plan is, and Doug can speak to this, the plan is that we will have a special town meeting in July to correct what we need to correct.
Right.
To reallocate all that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I meant by, increase appropriations and, restore some of these reductions.
Correct.
Exactly. But my guess is telling me it's going to have to be a special town meeting in the summer, because I don't think it's likely that, the state budget's not going to be passed in the next 3 weeks. We know that. And, we can see what happens with the feds, but my guess is it'll be a early summer special town meeting.
I think part of it to remember too is if the money comes in from the feds and it's encumbered, right? So it has to be, they send it out with a bunch of rules and they say, here's some money for you, but you can only use it for this.
Well,
that may not help us overall.
Well, it may help. The biggest thing right now is the educational grants that they're planning on, or hopefully planning on. The school will have ready access to that type of money. I know that there's talk of funding to municipalities for lost revenues, etc. at this point in time, if we do get lost revenue funding, I do not believe we can use this for 22 budget. But if we get it, we'll get clarification on that to see if we can use it. It looks like we
Right.
may get some money, but we don't know how much, and we don't know if we can use it in 22 budgeting. If we could, that would be a nice thing.
So we'd have to hold that aside for 23.
It's
to
all,
be able
well,
to use it,
if
or
we
free
receive-
cash.
If we received it in 21, if we don't have restrictions on it, then we can potentially use it for the 21-22 budget. But if we get it in 21 and we're required to close it out to free cash, then we can't use that until we get certified free cash. And the last couple of years, we haven't been certified till January. But
Okay.
you know, we're going to do everything we can to make it a positive. If we have positive, we'll do everything we can to make it a positive.
But I think I do, you know, I'm obviously not the expert. Dr. Cron and Jane Hackett are the experts with Chapter 70 and the Student Opportunities Act. But from everything I've learned from them and everything I'm seeing, this was a real unintended kind of accident, a perfect storm of COVID and this formula impacting not just Rockland, but many communities. So I have to believe that they're going to fix this. And it should be with a substantial amount, because again, we were slated to get at least 800,000 more in FY22. So even just on the state side alone, you know, there should be a fix to this, not even counting on the federal money.
And the latest information that we got from Dr. Cron, I believe it was today or yesterday afternoon, was that Rockland missed the Student Opportunities Act funding of the 800,000 by $8,000. That's why they're fighting so hard to say it's $8,000. We shouldn't be penalized for this. And that's where the fight is, and that's where they're fighting with DESE, who can get to the state, to the reps, to the Ways and Means to help us get what the town of Rockland should have for the Chapter 70.
Any more questions for Doug or Biz on the budgeting, revenues coming in?
Not to sound stupid, when you say DESE, what do you mean?
Oh, Division of Education, Secondary Education.
Oh, thank you.
Or Department.
Oh, Department of Elementary.
Elementary. Sorry.
Okay.
Secondary Education.
I'm terrible with acronyms.
All right. Any other questions for the Biz? Okay.
Nope. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I do have, so next week, we'll just kind of talk briefly about the agenda. You know, so for next week, we're going to have schools. And there was one other department I thought we were going to bring in, or one other group we were going to engage. I'm trying to look at my notes and see if I have that. Bobby, do you have another group that we were supposed to do next week?
Well, no, March 10th, we had
Capital
nobody.
planning. It was capital planning.
Oh, yeah, I think I did talk to Rich Harris. He was, we're hoping to have, after our meeting tomorrow night, we might be able to finalize our plan. And I did send you a preliminary one, John. Did you get it?
I did. I didn't take a chance to, didn't go through it very much, just because I didn't want to, you know, spend a lot of time going through something that might be changing, but
We just still have to meet with the schools, I think, tomorrow and finish some ratings, and we'll probably present a final plan on the 10th.
yeah, that would be ideal. So if you could speak to the folks over there, that would be great, and if we can get that in by the 10th, that would be fantastic.
I'll try to confirm that with Rich tomorrow night's meeting.
So for next week, it'll be capital planning and schools. Okay. And then, you know, when will we have a draft of the warrant to start scrolling through? Or Biz, do you feel like we can start voting some of the department budgets next week?
Well, you do have their final budgets effective today, but there's a request I send it via Excel, of which I will do. I will do that probably tomorrow morning. I have training tomorrow morning, so we will send that over. And then then that's pretty much what you're gonna see. Unless there's another change, another surprise, it will not be changing. Does that sound correct, Doug?
Yeah, and
Yep.
I was just thinking ahead to the warrant, because I don't have warrant language. You know, we started it, but we had about 50 articles, and I don't have it ready for you to start voting yet. So we need a little more time.
Yeah, we have to send it off to legal as well
Yeah.
first. And we're
Right,
still
so-
waiting for sewer from next week because we don't have their final
So
information.
we'll work on the operational budget voting like we
Mhm.
did last year. We'll go line item by line item, budget by budget. We'll get all those votes entered. We'll entertain any final questions. I'll encourage everybody to kind of review their notes on the different budgets. So if you have something you want to go back to, want to get a question on, we don't have to vote every single departmental budget next week. You just want to kind of go through the ones that we're good with. And if there are questions that we can't get answered, if you think of them ahead of time, let's try and get them out to those department heads and get the answers before next week. But worst case scenario, if we had to put a budget aside, it's not a big deal. We'll come back to it and finalize the budget for the department. Because it looks of it, we're definitely going to have to get back together to do the articles before we can kind of turn the budget back over to the town. Okay. And then Doug, if you could just give us an update on the articles next week between you and Biz, just like we're going to have them by this date, or we think we'll have them by this date.
When you say an update in the articles, do you mean the actual warrant language? Or what?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, generally we have the warrant itself in hand when we go through the budget. So we have the language, and it's not as simple as just saying, we need 75,000 for a dump truck out of, undesignated fund balance. It is when we come to vote it, but we should be reading the article as written. That's ideally the way the warrant is written and voted on by us.
There might be a couple of changes, but maybe Tuesday of next week. General language, we did the same thing last year where we knew language had to change. We were going to send it off to legal, but you reviewed it ahead of time and you approved it. You said, yes, this is fine based on language. So it'll be the same type of thing, I believe, this year, because we still have to get it out.
Yeah, it's just, ideally, we want to get to the point where we've got all the languages in there as close as possible to being done.
Mhm.
Because if the language does change, technically, we're supposed to vote that before, we'd have to potentially even vote it on the town meeting
Bless you.
right before town meeting, which we've done.
Right, you gotta amend everything.
It's fine to do it in the past, but if we have to amend it and say, we've had to do in the past where everything was coming out of undesignated fund balance, and now it's like half and half or something has to be pulled together, and we have to revote that. And that's all built into some of the language too. So
Yeah, those languages are pretty clear. They're pretty consistent, but there are some other articles that we're working on.
So if we can get
this as soon as I can, I don't think it's not going to be next Wednesday. I'm just looking this way because that's where my calendar is. So I think it'll most likely be the 17th.
Yeah, and that's fine, Doug. If you can give me an update on when it will be. 17th is going to be kind of a tough night for me because it's pretty busy and at the restaurant because it is St. Patty's Day. So I might be needed there, but we'll cross that when we get to it. Okay.
Gotcha.
But in any case, we'll get an update next week on where we stand with the articles, and we'll see what happens between now and then. So that's what next week looks like.
Was available for a different night that week?
I would be available for Tuesday night that week. So Tuesday the 16th versus Wednesday the 17th.
Selectmen's meeting.
Yeah, I mean, Biz could do it, but I have the selectmen's meeting that night.
Yeah, if we're just going through the articles, we could be in good shape. We may not need a lot of input, but the Thursday I can't because I have commitments. Monday I can't, I have commitments. So it's really Wednesday or Friday would be the next available day for me.
Tuesday's good for me. That's tough for everybody.
All right.
We're tired come Friday.
All right. Well, why don't we see how this week goes, and I'll communicate with everybody in text message if we need to Well, we'll set the date on the 10th. We'll set the date for the next meeting and we'll pull it together. Again, if we're just going through articles, it should be a relatively quick meeting. We might even be able to pick a time that's a little bit more, amenable around my schedule. I don't also have to be here. Other people can run the meeting as well. Okay. All right. So the last thing I was going to do is Julie sent over some notes.
Minutes?
Yeah, we got some minutes here. So if you guys can see my screen, I got February 17th up.
If you can enlarge it a little bit.
Is that better?
A little better.
Megan, I apologize for the misspelling of your name. I fixed it. I have.
My Jen.
I kind of like, I've never seen it like that. I kind of like it.
I can butcher anybody's name.
And you have.
All right.
I've got
We
minutes to prove it.
got Jeff and we got Joe. We got Megan's name to update. Sheila and Lori were absent, so Lori, you can't vote on this one. Okay.
I have a question on one of the, if I could.
Yep, Bill.
In the paragraph, under the police department, police budget was explained by Chief Llewellyn. There's a sentence in there that says that the chief will be retiring in 15 months. So he will start the search for a replacement. Is that the way it works? Does he do it?
Well, no, the selectman will make the final decision, but
yeah, but
like he said, he wants to look and see if he can get somebody that's in the department already. That's what he meant.
But is that his call?
All right,
I think what Bill's
no,
saying is,
it's
or
not
is
his
this
call.
something that starts and ends with the Board of Selectmen?
Yeah, I
Right.
would think the search committee would be put together.
He will start the search. He should just say he's retiring in 15 months, and the search for his replacement will be beginning soon. Something like that.
All right. Thank you.
That's good. Good call. All right. So going back to the first page, we've got the updates from the veterans parade. Okay. Youth Commission.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job on the spelling sprinklered. That was good. It's a tough one. Third floor is now usable. Okay. We need floor ceilings. Okay. All right. We get the police budget, talking about the cruisers. Okay. Level funded. Okay. Dispatch budget out of Holbrook. That's been working out for us. That's great. 22. Now the new engine truck, we didn't end up doing. I didn't see that on the plan, right? Did we forego that one, I believe?
Right, that was one of the things I mentioned, John, that we're going to try to use some of the marijuana host community agreement funds, some of the capital stabilization funds, and save up for it.
Okay.
Did we push that out a year on the capital plan, maybe?
I think because the fire engine was too big for the station, right?
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah. So I think the answer to both those are yes, yes, and yes.
Okay. All right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the 3-page meetings. That Julie, thank God we're not paying her by the page. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the meetings from February 17th with the adjustment that Bill Principe mentioned, as well as the spelling corrections.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 17 with the adjustments.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second by Joe and a second by Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and all opposed? None. Okay, thanks very much. These meeting minutes are accepted.
Hey, I just noticed one thing. I think you spelled Peggy Bryan's name wrong. I think it's B-R-Y-A-N. If I was looking at it right, I think it was B-R-Y-O-N on the minutes.
Yes, it was.
So I think it's A-N.
All right. And let me get to the February 24th minutes. And then we should be good to go. Okay, share my screen, February 24th. I'm getting good at the sharing screen stuff. Except Joe's getting, it needs like a nausea pill or something before the meeting.
I know, really.
All right. So looks like everybody was here except for Sheila.
What, was that yawning again?
Or you get to play in this one, February 24th.
Megan's name is.
Building department, gas expected, a lot of level funded on this one. Park department, no articles to consider this year. Oh, I don't know, is that accurate? Was there a park department article?
No,
No.
no.
Yeah, I think he was just talking about,
He has stuff he wants on his wish list, that's all.
yeah, he talked about being able to take care of the electrical and stuff like that.
Yeah, the bathroom
I got
stuff.
it. Water department funder, okay. Okay, Dave Taylor spoke about highway department, hired equipment. Snow and ice. You've got over budgeted by 465,000. I think that included money we already had in there. Was that right?
That's estimates. At that time, that was estimates.
Okay. Budget will be increased. Okay. Stormwater drain. Infiltration pumps. Okay.
That was actually 265,000.
For
Where it says 465, that's 265. At that time, that's what we were over budget at.
okay.
Because there was already 200,000 in the budget. No, yeah.
Correct. So at that point, we were over by 265,000.
Okay.
So you're saying the 465 is good for now?
Town clerk budget is 4,000%, mail-in ballots. Okay. All right. All right. That is our meeting minutes. Any other comments or thoughts? All right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes on February 24th with the adjustments. As mentioned, I also do want to mention that Megan and Jeff's name also needs to be updated.
Right.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes with those changes.
Okay.
For the 24th.
I have a motion. I have a second from Lori.
Yep.
There you go. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. All right. Those meeting minutes are accepted. Thanks very much. All right. Anybody else have anything to share in terms of liaison meetings or any conversations that they've had? Any kind of open items? All right. Coming out of this, so Biz, I owe you a signed copy of that transfer request. I'll get that over to you tomorrow. And we had those couple of questions we had on the budget. I did send you a request. It wasn't an urgent request, but I was looking for some of our actuals from FY20, just so we can get a kind of an idea of how things are moving forward. I also did ask the school department when they do present to talk about their budgeting process, because as as we've seen through Biz's budget, she'll take a department or the town's budget that they're working on. They'll take a department's performance and they'll say, all right, they may not spend every dollar in every line item, but we plan for a little bit of space because there's always something that happens within those budget line items. We give it a little bit of room, and that's what we budget for. And then, of course, in the overall budget, we're holding back a certain amount so we don't budget every dollar that we make. So I've asked the school department to kind of walk us through what their process is when they budget, whether or not they budget right up to every dollar that they get as part of the 70-30 split, and what do they do if they have surplus. I wanted to ask them a little bit about if there's a stabilization fund, that kind of thing, as well as if they have a shortage, like where are they going to kind of pull that money. It's really just a conversation about some transparency on and getting them to kind of share a little bit about how they do things, and contrasting that with how the town does it. So I've asked for that information. Jane said that she'd be happy to share it. And, so I'll look forward to that part of the conversation. Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments?
Hey, next week, will the meeting ID number and the passcode be the same as
The
this
ID
week?
number and the passcode will be exactly the same.
All right, cool.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, I got a motion from Bill and a second from Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks,
Good night.
everyone. Have a good night. Appreciate
Good
it.
night.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.